Election-duped masses!
You're listening to Media Monarchy with James Evan Pilato.
Whoppercoin investment, hospital heroes, and blankets of ash. Plus this day in history with Piggly Wiggly and our song of the day by Always on your Morning Monarchy for September 6, 2017. I'm James Evan Pilato for MediaMonarchy.com. Welcome to wherever you are in the world for news and views brought to you by you. We are independent, non-commercial, alternative media since 9/11/05, our 12th anniversary next Monday. And we're glad that you're here. Streaming live, MediaMonarchy.com/listen Monday through Friday. Tell a friend. Wednesday's Food World Order Day. That means food, health, and environment news. Hope you're doing safe and sound whenever, wherever you are. We've already been hanging out in the chat for a little bit. You can get the links to the chat over in the tweets, just like you can find the links to all the stories we're going to talk about over this next hour using hashtag Food World Order up on the tweets. Comparing our, massive forest fire smokes and also the relative prices of cannabis as it goes up here in the Pacific Northwest. Pretty massive fires still burning up here in the Pacific Northwest. You've basically heard me say, oh, it sure is weird and orange, but we get pretty specific today. And we'll talk about the Eagle Creek fire raging out of control up here in the Pacific Northwest at the end of this Food World Order episode. We got all kinds of other food, health, and environment news to talk about on this episode. And again, hope you're doing well. We've been doing this for a while. Each day of the week, a different area of news. Monday is world news. Tuesday is technology news. Wednesday, I think in a lot of ways, Wednesday is the day that hopefully gives you the most actionable information. Maybe Tuesdays and Wednesdays. What to do and what not to do with your technology on Tuesdays and what to do and what not to do with your food on Wednesdays. Everything else, you could make the argument, oh yeah, Fridays, I don't care. You talk about movies I don't give a shit about. And those don't necessarily, it might affect you, spiritually and emotionally. But I think Wednesday is a very important day. We talk about food, health, and environment news. And again, not only are we crowdfunded at MediaMonarchy.com/support, but we are also crowdsourced. All the news brought to you by you. Let's glance at the breaking lamestream news, my friends. Hurricane Irma slams Caribbean islands as it heads towards Puerto Rico. That's going to be pretty much wall to wall. So yes, it's easy to say. You can look at America and say, oh, okay, so the South is underwater and the West is completely on fire. Wall Street may slam DACA move, but it still wants a tax rewrite. Schumer, Pelosi offer Democratic votes if Harvey aid gets paired with short-term debt limit hike, because that's how you play politics with dead people. I don't like any part of this story. Tiger shot dead after pouncing on dog in metro Atlanta neighborhood. Tiger on loose in Henry County, shot and killed by police. One of the things the cops are really good at doing is killing animals. And as we've noted many, many times, people who abuse animals rarely stop there. Stanley Fischer submits resignation as a member of the Board of Governors effective, pretty soon. He's the number 2 guy at the Federal Reserve. The number 2 guy. He was a real piece of crap. Lobbyists sure love Trump's expensive golf courses for some reason, and that's a quick glance at your breaking lamestream news. Now, we always need a little bit of a fact check because the fake news purveyors of Google, who we've talked about yesterday and at least over the last year, manipulating your search results. They've all worked together. They've all gotten together. FriendFace, Hillary, Google, Alphabet Incorporated, Bilderberger, Eric Schmidt, all that stuff. They've all gotten together to figure out that you need to be told what to think. No, Hurricane Irma is not a Category 6 storm. There is no Category 6. You heard us actually reference that yesterday because that was already bubbling around. Jeff Sessions' questionable claim that DACA helped cause a spike in minors at the border. That's from PolitiFact. Did people put sunscreen on their eyes during the solar eclipse? Well, I wouldn't be surprised. Joey Badass, the rapper, stared at it a bunch and then had to cancel all his concerts. Kate Middleton hit with cocaine bombshell is fake news, says Gossip Cop. And no, Kelly Ward doesn't believe in the chemtrail conspiracy theory. That from the Amazon-owned Washington Compost. I think we've sort of talked about this. It really maybe hit me just in the last day. Holy crap. Amazon, Jeff Bezos, owns your food and owns your news now. 2 big things people use to pretty much make it and break it through their day. And just like we ended yesterday's episode talking about the technology angles of health, in this way we start your Food World Order Day talking about the Health angles of technology. Advertising loves itself a trend whose coattails it can ride with the unhinged glee of a sloshed prom date. That's right. And you see it everywhere now. Everybody wants to hop. Oh, you guys are all mad? Okay, well, we can turn our ad campaigns into mad campaigns because you're all pissed off about stuff. You guys woke up all angry on the wrong side of the bed. So corporate America is more than happy to sell you all kinds of advertisements. I think I made the joke even early in the year looking through one of the crappy weekly free papers here. Man, say what you want, but Trump is generating jobs. There were 2 ads next to each other. One for join the resistance, be mad, sign up, get jobs, bugging people. And then the ad right next to it was come see a Melania stripper impersonator. It's like, man, you can't beat that. Hot Pockets do the Harlem Shake. IHOP uses all the trendy slang. Because once a brand or 2 or 3 has invited itself into the hype conversation, that probably means it's time for everyone to get up to leave. And what's the hypest topic we're all on now? This, according to Adweek. And again, everything we say and play included in the show notes. You can get the links and follow the research, do more yourself. That probably means it's time for everybody to leave. What's the hypest topic right now? Whether or not Bitcoin's going to destroy all banks or make us all rich. Thus enters Burger King. The brand just broke crypto space with Whoppercoin, the so-called blockchain loyalty program where customers in Russia can earn 1 Whopper coin for every ruble spent at Burger King. For every 1,700 Whopper coins, they'll score a free burger.
Burger King comes up with its own take on Bitcoin. The fast food chain has launched the Whoppercoin in Russia. The tokens will reward diners by allowing them to claim 1 coin for every ruble they spend on the signature Whopper sandwich. Customers can receive Whoppercoin tokens via a digital wallet by scanning their receipts with a smartphone. Once enough tokens have been collected, they can eventually be used to buy burgers. The coins can also be transferred and traded online, so customers can either save their rewards or sell them to new buyers. Based on the current price of a Whopper in Russia, customers will be able to get a free sandwich for every 5 or 6 they buy with real money. The head of external communications at Burger King Russia says, now Whopper is not only a burger that people in 90 different countries love, it's an investment tool as well.
In Russia, burger pays you. It is an investment tool. It's an investment tool on your future hypertension and heart attack. This news should surprise no one who follows Burger King closely, which is hopefully no one that listens to this broadcast. For even outside Russia, its knack for hijacking the hype train is the stuff of lore. It's 3D printed prosthetic hands, so those in need can eat Whoppers with ease, invented gimmicky utensils, and allegedly a Whopper toothpaste, used pro gamers to take orders while playing, hijacked Google Home, picked a beef with at least one member of the royal family, and in perhaps the most literal take on its penchant for showboating, released print ads that featured its own stores on fire. Hype beasts. Whoppercoin is hosted on a blockchain platform called Waves, which lets users swap blockchain tokens of a given value on a peer-to-peer exchange. A dedicated asset page on Waves describes it as a token for buying burgers in Russian Burger King and for the stock exchange. Wavesgo.com. Alexa, make me healthier. I don't think it works that way. 1 billion Whopper coins have been released so far, and accrued currency is stored in a digital wallet until they're redeemed for a burger. In the meantime, users can trade and transfer the coins like any other cryptocurrency. Who knows? If you didn't invest early enough in Bitcoin or were simply born way too late to enjoy the spoils of tulipomania, this could be your winning horse. People have gotten rich in weirder ways, and the crypto market at large is now worth $160 billion. Now, the Whopper is not only a burger that people in 90 different countries love, it's an investment tool as well, gushes Ivan Shestov, Burger King Russia's head of external communications, as you heard in that clip. According to the forecast, cryptocurrency will increase exponentially in value. Eating Whoppers now is a strategy for financial prosperity tomorrow. Beginning next month, Burger King Russia will release an app on the Apple Store and Google Play, making Whoppercoin that much easier to transfer and share. And as Adweek wraps it up, may the odds be ever in your favor. Because these are the Hunger Games that we now live in. Burger King just launched its own cryptocurrency, the Whoppercoin. And I think this shows another way that independent underground media and worlds, we invent the stuff, and then it gets exploited by the big boys. It gets bought up and sold back to you. That happens with food, and that happens with art, that happens with music, that happens with politics, that happens with religion. It's all of it. Only thing healthy to eat at Burger King is a cup of hot tea. I don't know if you can pay for heart surgery in the Whoppercoin. These and other questions we'll have to find out another time on your Morning Monarchy. It is Wednesday, Hump Day, September 6th, 2017. I'm James Evan Pilato from MediaMonarchy.com. Let's stay on the unhealthy tip that the powers that shouldn't be will, again, be more than happy to send it to you because they want you to live today like there's no tomorrow. But remember, they've got big multi-generational serial killer plans. Amazon expands 2-hour alcohol delivery to more cities. The rollout, which has been gradual since the service launched in Seattle in 2015, now includes New York, Phoenix, Portland, San Francisco, and Chicago, and other cities. Amazon's alcohol delivery service is scaling quickly and stands to capitalize on a growing market of Americans who are drowning their sorrows. According to Ibis World, booze delivery will reach $1.4 billion in the next 2.5 years by 2020, fueled by millennial consumers and others who value the convenience of having six-packs and bottles of spirits delivered to their door. Wine sales in particular are increasing due to an upswing in interest in finer varieties of the beverage and a rise in product launches. Millennials are also contributing to increased sales of wines and wine blends. According to Wine Spectator, I know you guys all subscribe to that, millennials drank 42% of all the wine consumed in the U.S. in 2015, a rate higher than any other generation's consumption. As millennials come of age and their disposable incomes rise, with the $15 an hour minimum wage gigs, their penchant for premium drinks and wines should probably only increase. Current competitors in the delivery space include Drizzly, Minibar, and Thirsty. Companies which I'm sure are all slated to be bought up by other powers that shouldn't be, and we'll see how quickly would you like us to sell out? They're probably going to partner with local stores and distros in other cities like Boston, New York, and D.C., as well as the many grocery stores that now offer online ordering. The world's largest e-tailer, however, of course, has some key advantages, like buying up all of their competition and destroying everyone else. Most notably, its super logistics platform and free, because, that's really free. 2-hour delivery. You just have to pay an exorbitant delivery fee. Against alcohol-only competitors like Drizzly, which I love that name and I could continue to say that over and over again, and Minibar, Amazon can also leverage the thousands of additional goods it carries. Prime members can easily tack on a 6-pack or a bottle of wine onto a grocery order. If they're stocking up for a party, they can buy all the booze and food they need in one place. Drizzly, which operates in 40 North American markets, and again, I've never heard of it. Perhaps it might be in any one of your cities. It's Amazon's largest competitor in this space, offering delivery for $5 in most places, often within the hour. This beats Amazon's $7.99 fee for within-the-hour delivery, but it's hard to imagine that the demand for 1-hour versus 2-hour alcohol delivery will be strong enough for Drizzly to capitalize on a $3 advantage. As the service expands to other cities, as it most certainly will, you drunks, because we are headed into hard depression times, and people will be smoking lots of cigarettes and drinking lots of booze. Yeah, I used to be in the real estate game. Tough racket. Its main value, though, is that it's yet another lure for existing members to use Prime for grocery shopping. The service may also play a role in Amazon's e-commerce offerings through its newly acquired Whole Foods stores. Now, of course, those regulatory hurdles may throw up some roadblocks with alcohol delivery laws varying by state. I can't imagine this will go over real well in Utah. But Amazon's ability to partner with local retailers as a distributor could circumvent those. The biggest challenge Amazon will likely face in its alcohol expansion are those damn supermarkets. Oh, I wonder if that's why they got in and bought one of the biggest grocery stores in the country, which still enjoy considerable shopper loyalty and can offer targeted promotions on beer, wine, and spirits. And again, depending on which city you're in, you might not be able to even get any alcohol at a grocery store. Sometimes they keep it all squirreled away in the state-run store. Target, for one, recently began selling $5 bottles of wine, while numerous other grocers offer tastings, classes, and other in-store extras that delivery services can't, at least at this point, replicate. That is, at least until they buy up those services that will offer you tastings and classes and other in-store extras. Could I have another drink?
There is a new way to get alcohol in the tri-state And it's Amazon, right? They seem to do everything. The online retailer is expanding its home grocery delivery in Cincinnati to include beer and wine. That includes craft beers from the makers of like Rheingeist, Mad Tree, and Great Lakes Brewing Company. It costs about $8 for 1 hour delivery, and in a 2 hour delivery is free for Amazon Prime members. WCPO.com reporter Dan Monk is the guy that's been working on this story. Okay, so this is an interesting thing. How does it really work? Do I have to show an ID at some point?
You do have to show an ID.
Okay.
When they show up at the door. You can't pay in cash. You're urged to tip the driver, so free delivery really is not free. And you have to be a Prime member to do Prime Next.
And now most delivery, may I note, being a Prime member is free, but not this service.
This service, well,
technically, from the standpoint if you tip.
Right, exactly.
All right. So Amazon seems to be taking over the world here, friend. What is the business world? How are they reacting to this?
A lot of them are downplaying it. You know, like Macy's, for example, is also impacted by Amazon. They just said in a recent call that they're more worried about TJ Maxx than they are about Amazon.
Is that right?
Yeah. Kroger really doesn't talk about competition, and they declined to comment for this story. Their answer to home delivery of groceries has been the click list service that's been fairly popular here. More than 24 stores have it now, where you can order online, pick up at the store. There's a company that actually picks up your order for you and brings it to your house, another option for home delivery. So this is an evolving category in the grocery world, but it's not a big one yet. And so I think the companies competing against Amazon still see plenty of options in terms of getting people into their brick and mortar stores.
Well, as in covering business and covering this topic, when you talk about grocery and home delivery, do you think that this is where it is all going, or is this going to be a supplement to their sales?
I think it's always going to be a smaller percentage. It's not going to be the dominant way that people buy groceries. I don't think. I mean, you know.
Because I'm pretty sure if I don't stop at a Kroger every 2 days, somebody sends out like he's missing at that standpoint. You know what I mean? But
I didn't expect to be able to go on the internet and rent somebody's house for a week as opposed to checking into a hotel. So everything is changing pretty quickly in this area, and Amazon has resources. That's the key here, is that they have resources in terms of marketing. They're spending $1.5 billion in Northern Kentucky on an advanced distribution hub. So you know, they don't deliver in Northern Kentucky now. Chances are they will expand in Northern Kentucky at some point. So it's, you know, I wouldn't say this is the last step for Amazon, and Kroger, Macy's, really Procter & Gamble, which sells consumer products. All of them are going to have to cope with this rising power.
So that clip comes from WCPO. That's actually out of the Ohio and Kentucky area, which you heard him mentioning Kentucky there. Of course, every state in America is going to have some completely different alcohol scene. I think I've mentioned here in Oregon. It's all pretty much run by the OLCC, the Oregon Liquor Control Commission. They keep a pretty tight lock on who sells what where. They also took over the weed game as soon as that became a thing. So yes, the Liquor Commission controls the weed here in Oregon, and that's why it's heavily taxed, and that's why all that tax money goes to pay for a bunch of busted up drunks and smokers. See how that works? Now we can glance at the chat and note that no booze in grocery stores in Minnesota. They only even started selling things on Sunday last July. They note that being an alcoholic in Minnesota requires a certain talent for planning. So let's keep planning on this Food World Order edition of Your Morning Monarchy. Again, I'm James Evan Pilato from MediaMonarchy.com, talking food, health, and environment news with an unhealthy injection of technology. Earlier yesterday, Amazon was still selling I Am Healthy soy nut butter that was recalled back in March when federal officials traced an E. coli outbreak to the product, which we reported for you here on the show. No one from Seattle-based Amazon immediately responded to mid-morning requests for comment from Food Safety News, which is where we're grabbing this story from, and that's where we get a lot of our Food World Order news from. But by 11 a.m. Pacific time yesterday, the recalled peanut butter substitute had been pulled from the retailer's website. Officials with the FDA are investigating the situation, but weren't able to provide details yesterday. Although the final outbreak was declared over in May by the CDC, that agency's final report indicated additional illnesses were expected to be confirmed in relation to consumption of recalled soy nut butter products. The CDC cited the product's long shelf life and the likelihood that some consumers still have unopened product in their homes as contributing factors to the lingering nature of the outbreak. As of early May, the outbreak had sickened a confirmed 32 people across a dozen states. A variety of products made with soy nut butter produced by Dixie Dew Products, Dixie D-E-W-Do, all remain under recall, including all varieties of I Am Healthy soy nut butter products. Used to stock those back at the grocery store, but not very much. It's against federal law for anyone to sell or resell recalled products in any setting, including yard sales and thrift shops. The Consumer Product Safety Improvement Act, which became law in 2008, was used earlier this year by the Consumer Product Safety Commission against Home Depot. The big box home improvement retailer agreed to pay $5.7 million in relation to charges it sold recalled smoke detectors, light fixtures, and other products. After the Bluebell Creamery's ice cream recall that was linked to a deadly multi-year listeria outbreak, multiple sellers, many of them private individuals, offered the recalled ice cream for sale online. The auction site eBay, which has a policy against recalled items, removed all offers for recalled Bluebell products from its offerings, and I can even see it noted in the chat. Tears are all for the mom and pops. That's who wins in all these stories, right? eBay did the right thing. Amazon did the right thing. The auction site eBay, which of course has a policy against recalled items, they removed all that stuff. Amazon does not appear to offer a list of recalled products that it's offered for sale, as do many retailers. They do provide a list of government recall links and a recall policy that includes the following statement, quote, Amazon monitors public recall alert websites and also learns of recalls directly from manufacturers and vendors. When we learn of a recall, we suspend all impacted product offerings from our website and quarantine any related inventory in our fulfillment centers. We also reach out to any customers that previously purchased impacted products and any seller that may have offered such products to inform them about the recall. Linda Harris, chair of the world-renowned Food, Science, and Technology Department at the University of California, Davis, said Monday that she ordered recalled I Am Healthy soy nut butter from Amazon over the weekend, Labor Day weekend. She got the $50 shipment of 3 jars of the recalled product in less than 24 hours. The story really is about recalls and the ability in today's world of recovering all product when you have a recall. They have sophisticated programs that set prices and figure out complicated delivery schemes. They should be able to make sure recalled products isn't available for sale. Now, how much will the blockchain come into effect in this situation in the future? They've got all these sophisticated programs and complicated delivery schemes. So this is another example of why a massive centralized location giving you brand X widget, whatever it may be, it's not going to be as good as your local place, your local store, your local farmer's market. Your local community is going to know about the thumbs up and the thumbs bad. So Amazon removed that I Am Healthy soy nut butter yesterday after it being recalled 6 months ago, nearly 6 months to the day. And I believe it was just noted in the chat, soy nut butter gives you man tits. And you should also probably stay pretty far away from soy anything. We've pretty much removed that from anything we buy. You got to check it out. It's probably going to be hiding in your chips. Hey, I mentioned Utah, so let's head on over to Utah, shall we? As a U.S. judge last Thursday struck down a Utah law that landed a movie theater in trouble for serving alcohol during the racy superhero film Deadpool. Now, so you see how this goes. We've got the Whoppercoin, and we've got Amazon delivering alcohol. We've also got them giving you recalled soy nut butter. So let's go back to the booze. U.S. District Judge David Nuffer said state regulators violated Brewvies. That's the name of the chain, Brewvies. B-R-E-W-V-I-E-S, movies, brews, Brewvies. It violated Brewvies' freedom of speech when it threatened to fine the theater up to $25,000 under a law that prohibits serving booze during films with simulated sex or full frontal nudity. You guys in Utah are hilarious.
Thanks to a strange law, a Utah theater was facing a potential $25,000 fine for serving alcohol during a recent screening of Deadpool. The law states that theaters cannot serve alcohol during movies that contain simulated sex or full frontal nudity, saying that it could create an explosive combination. According to The Hollywood Reporter, a theater called Broovies decided to disregard the law and was then threatened with the hefty fine. The theater fought back and, with a $5,000 donation from Ryan Reynolds himself, won the case.
I generally find there's explosive results anytime there's full frontal nudity. So is that okay if it was an actual straight-up pornographic film without simulated sex? It was just actual sex? Could you do that in Utah? Attorney Rocky Anderson calls the decision enormously important, actually, for First Amendment rights. He argues the law is so vague it would apply to an art gallery offering wine near Michelangelo's David, and that the state used it to intimidate the theater. This is a huge victory for everyone, he said. Lawmakers and the governor have supported the law in the conservative state where politics are dominated by Mormons whose faith teaches avoidance of alcohol. However, aspartame in Diet Coke is really good for you, and they pound that stuff. The case caught the attention of Deadpool star Ryan Reynolds, who is no dummy in the social media world. He donated $5,000 to help pay the legal bills of the theater late last year. The state is reviewing the ruling and considering its options, said Dan Burton, a spokesman for the Utah Attorney General's office. State attorneys call alcohol and sexual content an explosive combination. That's the word, explosive combination. The 2016 complaint against the theater came under a law generally used to ensure strip clubs that serve liquor keep dancers wearing G-strings and pasties. But it also bans serving booze during films featuring nudity or sex scenes. Utah argued that Deadpool violated the law because the movie includes nudity and simulated sex, including a suggestive scene in the film's credits involving a cartoon unicorn. Oh, it was a cartoon unicorn? It wasn't a real one? Broovies is not an adult-oriented establishment, Nuffer wrote. Broovies does not focus on sex. It shows the same movies that any other crappy movie theater shows, that other non-sexually oriented movie theaters show, but with alcohol. Utah's law is similar to, wouldn't you know it, an Idaho measure that lawmakers repealed last year when a theater sued after its liquor license was threatened for showing 50 Shades of Grey while serving alcohol. I had no idea there was this extra puritanical element of what you're looking at while you have the evil devil's drink. Now, I think Texas really led the way in a lot of this. It was probably the Alamo, the draft house places that really helped bust through movies and alcohol together as a thing. And they've turned it into a pretty giant industry. And now there's pretty much a chain of theaters all around the South. I definitely recall, and I've maybe told you this before, remember my girlfriend at the time and I were doing a little bit of traveling in Charlotte, and this would have been in 97, I believe, 1997. We were not 21. But we found a movie theater traveling. It was probably around somewhere in Charlotte, North Carolina, where they were playing Grosse Pointe Blank, the John Cusack assassin movie, of course, with the hit college radio soundtrack. It was playing in a theater that you could get alcohol and get pizza, and most importantly to us at the time, you can smoke cigarettes in here. Oh my God. We weren't old enough to drink. We just smoked a lot of cigarettes and ate a bunch of pizza and watched Grosse Pointe Blank. It's amazing what you can do when you're allowed as an adult to make your own choices about what you consume and what you put in your body. And that is what we are fighting for everybody. I don't really care who you are or what you want to do. You should have the liberty and freedom to do what you want to do. I'm James Evan Pilato from MediaMonarchy.com, serving up the Hump Day edition of your Morning Monarchy. It is Wednesday, September 6, 2017, coming to you as always from the Media Monarchy studios, streaming live, MediaMonarchy.com/listen. We've noted for the last several months that everything has pretty much ratcheted and rocketed to a pretty unsustainable level. And again, as we've joked, someone in the chat yesterday said, yeah, America pretty much looks like an advertisement for catastrophe right now. And we played that clip for you Friday that we said was basically probably going to live in infamy forever, where the fake news network basically tries to interview Harvey victims, and they say, what the fuck is your problem? Shoving a microphone in my face. Pretty iconic audio and video. Well, another week and another batch of pretty unbelievable audio and video. But we stay in Utah, wouldn't you know it? The Salt Lake City hospital, where a police officer roughly arrested a nurse who was protecting her patient's rights in July, will no longer allow law enforcement agents inside its patient care areas. They'll now have to check in rather than enter through the emergency room. Quote, law enforcement who come to the hospital for any reason involving patients will be required to check in to the front desk of the hospital, end quote, said Chief Nursing Officer Margaret Pierce of the University of Utah Hospital. There, a hospital house supervisor will meet the officers to work through each request. Hospital officials say they created the policy one day after the July incident in which nurse Alex Wubbles refused to allow a police investigator, identified as Jeff Payne, to get a blood sample from a patient who was injured in a deadly collision with another driver. Wubbles was following the hospital's policy and a recent Supreme Court decision that requires either a warrant, the patient's consent, or the patient being under arrest for such a sample to be obtained legally. Last year, the Supreme Court ruled that the Fourth Amendment bars blood tests from being obtained without a warrant in drunken driving cases. Our hospital continues to offer our full support to Alex, said Gordon Crabtree, the hospital system CEO. I think many of you know she is an Olympian, and to us, she's truly an Olympic-sized hero. We extend our appreciation and her dedication for her service. Calling the nurse a hero, hospital in Utah now bars police from patient care areas. Let's listen to this actually difficult to listen to altercation.
Brad, I'm just putting on speaker so you can. So I have this. It says obtaining blood samples for police enforcement from patients suspected to be under the influence. Okay, this is something that you guys agreed to with this hospital. The three things that allow us to do that are if you have an electronic warrant, patient consent, or patient under arrest, and neither of those things. The patient can't consent. He's told me repeatedly that he doesn't have a warrant, and the patient is not under arrest. So I'm just trying to do what I'm supposed to do. That's all. So.
Okay, so I take it without those in place, I'm not going to get blood. Is that? Am I fair to surmise that?
Alex, you're not representing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why is he continuing to blame you?
I don't know. I have no idea why he's blaming me. I'm just representing.
Why are you blaming the messenger, sir?
She's the one that has told me no.
Yeah, but sir, you're making a huge mistake right now.
Okay.
Like you're making a huge mistake because you're threatening a nurse.
Okay. No, we're done. We're done. You're under arrest. We're going. We're done.
Sir,
We're done. I said we're done. I said we're done. I said we're done.
Hey. I have administration on the way. Sir, hey, please. Whoa. I have administration.
She can sit in my car while we're coming.
This is unnecessary, man.
And sometimes it only takes one piggy to make a piggy pie. That's what it sounds like when the cops go after nurses in Utah. Good God Almighty. And you can just see, yeah, it's just caveman mindset. This particular individual is resisting. Must get blood. Now, if we can look at this in some kind of positive ways, again, if the powers that shouldn't be and the giant corrupt institutions like the disease industry and the so-called law enforcement fields, if we can get them fighting with each other, I see possibly positive outcomes from that. The more the powers that shouldn't be fight with themselves and argue over their little gangster territory, the more we can, to mix metaphors, slip through their fingers. Let's get more food, health, and environment news, my friends, using hashtag Food World Order. Monroe Bergdorf, L'Oreal UK's first transgender model, was fired after making inflammatory statements on FriendFace saying that, quote, all white people are racist. Bergdorf was one of 5 beauty ambassadors for L'Oreal's Yours Truly True Match. It's an ad campaign and has been called the face of modern diversity. The model's public sentiments about white people and racism brought an abrupt end to her budding career at L'Oreal. The Daily Mail reported that Bergdorf embarked on an angry rant against white people, calling them all racist as a result of white privilege. Honestly, I don't have energy to talk about the racial violence of white people anymore. Yes, all white people. Because most of y'all don't even realize or refuse to acknowledge that your existence, privilege, and success as a race is built on the backs, blood, and death of people of color. Your entire existence is drenched in racism. From microaggressions to terrorism, you guys built the blueprint for this shit. Come see me when you realize that racism isn't learned, it's inherited, and consciously or unconsciously passed down through privilege. Once white people begin to admit that their race is the most violent and oppressive force of nature on earth, then we can talk. Until then, stay acting shocked about how the world continues to stay fucked at the hands of your ancestors and your heads that remain buried in the sand with hands over your ears." End quote. L'Oreal responded with a statement, quote, "L'Oreal supports diversity and tolerance towards all people, irrespective of their race, background, gender, and religion. The L'Oreal Paris True Match campaign is a representation of these values, and we are proud of the diversity of the ambassadors who represent this campaign. We believe that the recent comments by Monroe Bergdorf are at odds with those values, and as such, we've taken the decision to end the partnership with her. L'Oreal remains committed to celebrating diversity and breaking down barriers in beauty." They even also did it in 140 characters. "L'Oreal champions diversity. Comments by Monroe Bergdorf are at odds with our values, and so we have decided to end our partnership with her." See ya. Bergdorf then took to FriendFace to clarify her original comments after L'Oreal dumped her. She said, "First up, let's put my words in context," as the Daily Mail failed to do so. "This rant was a direct response to the violence of white supremacists," all capital letters, in Charlottesville. "It was not written this week." Secondly, identifying the success of the British Empire has been at the expense of the people of color is not something that should offend anyone. It's a fact. It happened. Slavery and colonialism at the hands of white supremacy played a huge part in shaping the united ... Oh, I guess I'd have to log into FriendFace to see the rest of that exhilarating statement. So that guy who thinks he's a woman thinks all the people who aren't like him are bad. Here's Bob with sports. No, actually, let's not do sports. Let's do drugs. How about that? Labeling your personal property with your name and number, not a good habit to get into when it's a bag of MDMA. A Ziplocked bag of party drugs found at last month's, oh no, Maroochydore Music and Visual Arts Festival. Oh, MMVAF, that's much easier to say. On the Sunshine Coast. We got peeps down there. Contained the message, and there's a great picture. This could be today's cover art. We don't get the guy's name. It says blanks MDMA. If found, please call 04 blah 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 blah. Sunshine Coast Police said the find made their job a lot easier and charged a 21-year-old Dalby man with possession of dangerous drugs on Monday. He will appear in court at the end of September. More than 6,300 people attend the Maroochydore Music and Visual Arts Festival. What did they charged 52 people with drug offenses. Drugs seized on that day included cannabis, MDMA capsules, pills, and methamphetamine powder, all, of course, which will be raided by the cops once it's back in their storage unit. But sometimes the drugs don't have to be squirreled away in the evidence locker. A lot of times, you just open up that tap, and it comes pouring out. And a lot of times, you're just giving it to the kids. Mental health in America, stop the presses. Mental health in America is on the decline. And there's no one-size-fits-all reason for this. Doctors and psychiatrists do offer a one-size-fits-all solution, and that is their good friends, antidepressants. The number of people who have taken antidepressants has soared some 65% in the last 15 years, and the numbers continue to rise. A new survey from the previously mentioned CDC shows, according to the latest statistics, use of antidepressants in the U.S. rose by 65% between 1999 and 2014 in a 15-year span. So essentially, right there at the 9/11 era, at the dawn of the 9/11 era, we are a very heavily medicated society. Nearly 1 in 8 Americans over the age of 12 reported being on an antidepressant medication. 1 in 6 women, that's 16.5%, reported antidepressant use as compared to 1 in 11 men. About 1/4 of those who had taken an antidepressant in the past month reported being on them for over a decade. Caucasians were more than 3 times more likely to use antidepressants than blacks, Hispanics, or Asians. And in Scotland, researchers also warned that antidepressant use among children under the age of 12 has risen dramatically. between 2009 and 2016. That's just a little 6-year span, even shorter, less than half of the previous span we were talking about. Use in this age group quadrupled. Use among children under 18 doubled in the same time. Oh, but what does the OECD think about it? The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development examined data in 25 countries to determine who uses the most antidepressants, revealing some interesting details. For example, in some countries, usage is also spiking. And of note is the fact that the numbers are increasing among children and young adults as well. In Germany, antidepressant use has risen 46% in just 4 years. Spain and Portugal, it rose 20%. Iceland led the pack in overall use, with about 1 in 10 people taking a daily antidepressant. And we've got the chart here. Global antidepressant users per 1,000 people. The lowest country on the list, 13, with Korea. Highest on the list, United States, with 110. 110 people out of 1,000. So that's over 10%. And it's rising. And they're giving it to the kids. I've said it before, if you tolerate this, your children will be next. And they are next. And that's what we continue to look at and fight against and try and raise the alarms about. Meanwhile, researchers from the University of California, Santa Barbara compared 500,000 birth records from people born in the San Joaquin Valley between 1997 and 2010. The average use of pesticides over that period was about 975 kilograms for each 2.6 square kilometer area per year. But for pregnant women in areas where 4,000 kilograms of pesticides were used, the chances of giving birth prematurely rose by about 8%, and the chance of having a birth abnormality rose by about 9%. Writing in the journal Nature Communications, researchers compared this to the 5 to 10% increase of adverse birth outcomes that can result from air pollution or extreme heat events. Concerns about the decades of harmful environmental exposure on birth outcomes have existed for decades. Great advances have been made in understanding the effects of smoking and air pollution, among others. Yet research on the effects of pesticides has remained inconclusive. While environmental contaminants generally share the ethical and legal problems of evaluating the health consequences of exposure in a controlled setting and the difficulties associated with rare outcomes, pesticides present an additional challenge. Exposure to pesticides varied greatly in the San Joaquin Valley, with more than half the births in places where there were no pesticides used in that area. So there's a lot still to go through here, but there is a giant new study. High exposure to pesticides as a result of living near farmers' fields appears to increase the risk of giving birth to a baby with abnormalities by about 9%. And we will have the link to nature.com in the show notes. And again, we've got it all in the show notes. Pesticides linked to birth abnormalities. And that's what you're giving your kids. And that's what comes out of the drains. And that's still not all the news on your Food World Order. Americans are taking so many antidepressants, you've maybe heard this story before, they're accumulating in fish brains in the wild. 10 different species of fish in the Great Lakes have been found to have detectable levels of human antidepressants in their brains, including the active ingredients of Prozac, Zoloft, and Seraphim. As we just told you, use of antidepressants in the U.S. rose by 65% from 1999 to 2014. This increase in consumption has also led to increase in waste, with the antidepressant molecules finding their way into the natural environment. And it's everywhere. Again, we've been saying it for a long time. You're probably insane if you're not filtering your water. And that might literally be true, because it might be eating your brain. And at the end of this food, health, and environment news, we come right back here to what I've been calling peak Portland. We have achieved a top level. I don't know if we can ever move beyond this. Residents of Portland, Oregon awoke yesterday to a blanket of ash and news that a forest fire in the Columbia River Gorge had somehow leapt the mighty river overnight. The fire, which authorities suspect was started Saturday afternoon by a 15-year-old boy from Vancouver, Washington, who tossed firecrackers off a cliff, has spread through miles of forest along both sides of the Columbia River Gorge, a beloved state treasure and national scenic area. They're even talking about Multnomah Falls being on fire.
Strong winds are really pushing it right into the Portland metro area, and that ash, it kind of looked like snow last night. I don't know if we have some video of that, but I know I saw it at my house. Dan, you saw it falling on your car as well last night.
Right, and joining us now is Dr. Nick Gideons from OHSU, the Richmond Clinic.
Yes.
Tell us, you've had a lot of people come in because of the weather, right?
The weather is really affecting our patients' health. We have a doubling in the number of calls for advice we get, or for people who have had health conditions exacerbated by the conditions that are out there.
You've been around the area for a while. Have you ever seen anything like this?
Nothing like this at all. Both how it affects our patients and might be personally last night driving, it was like snow on the road.
And that's something too you said your patient should be on the lookout for.
Yeah, the quality of the air, the fine particles, really do affect anyone who has chronic health conditions, heart and lung conditions in particular. We want people to avoid excessive exposure.
And you were saying that some of your clients are concerned about actually coming into the clinic, right?
You know, we've also had many cancellations. Folks are not carrying out routine business. I'm glad they're staying indoors if they need to. People need to adjust their lives for the stress of this situation.
And this is at unhealthy levels right now. Could it get worse?
Clearly you've seen the reports here. I don't think we're through the worst of it yet.
So, so you talked about people who are vulnerable, the elderly, people with asthma, the young. So I got up this morning and stubbornly went on a walk. I feel fine. How big a mistake was that?
I don't think it was a big mistake, Dan. I'd avoid really heavy exertion where you're really moving a lot of volume through your lungs. Simple dust masks really don't do much for the fine particles that cause the most trouble for the lungs. The N95 mask that you can get in some of the painter's supplies and other stores might be of some benefit. Folks who are healthy need to consider just adjusting their lives according to the situation and how they feel. The anxiety of the situation also takes a tax on us.
That was a good question, though, because I have two very active dogs, and I said, I have to get out and take a walk, too. And same with them. I wondered, are they okay? So I had to get out and walk as well.
It's time of exposure versus how hard you're breathing. I would really avoid the heavy exertion, even if you're healthy.
Dr. Nick Gideons, OHSU, thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you so much for the information.
The fire has entered the Bull Run watershed, the source of water for 1 in 5 Oregonians. It's threatening the Bonneville Dam and grid, the source of power for hundreds of thousands of homes. Residents of Troutdale, Portland's easternmost suburb, under a level 1 evacuation order, meaning residents should watch news updates and be ready for potential evacuation. That was kind of the news last night. However, this morning, the fire remained at 0% containment Wednesday morning. 0%. That's all the food, health, and environment news for you, all put together on a Twitter moment and shared an hour before showtime. So if you listen to these shows live, you can follow the bouncing ball, as I like to say, and get all these stories that we just covered. I ought to also highly implore you to check out hashtag Food World Order. Again, every day of the week has its own hashtag, but we only pick about a dozen or so stories to talk about within the hour. There are so many more stories, Food World Order being one of the most populated hashtags. All the recall news, all the merger news, all the health news, amazing recipes, positive news, good news. You can find a lot in Food World Order. We're going to go out with more new music from a little band out of Canada called Always, and they spell it Alvvays. But let's look first, my friends, at this day in history. Past is prologue. It's quite the day for travel. September 6th, 1492, Christopher Columbus sails from La Gomera in the Canary Islands, his final port of call before crossing the Atlantic Ocean for the first time. September 6th, 1522, the Victoria, the only surviving ship of Ferdinand Magellan's expedition, returns to Spain, becoming the first ship to circumnavigate the world. And finally, September 6th, 1620, the Pilgrims set sail from Plymouth, England on the Mayflower to settle in North America. All those privileged racists. Continuing to look at this day in history, we jump ahead a couple of centuries. September 6th, 1916, the first self-service grocery store, Piggly Wiggly, was opened in Memphis, Tennessee, created by Clarence Saunders.
My mama taught me how to shop at Piggly Wiggly.
We're the original self-service supermarket, opened in 1916.
Piggly Wiggly appreciates my business.
Always down home, down the street.
There are savings in every aisle.
At Piggly Wiggly, it's about friends serving friends.
Smoked hams, 89 cents a pound. Hillshire smoked sausage or Polish sausage, $1.99. Lay's potato chips, 2 for $4. Nabisco snack crackers, 2 for $4. Parquet quarters, 39 cents.
Now,
Piggly Wiggly, down home, down the street.
As much as that does actually make me kind of feel down home, I especially love the beginning.
My mama taught me.
I'll probably have to sample that for Media Monarchy bumpers down the road. But actually, there was never a Piggly Wiggly in West Virginia. They were always a grocery store I saw when we traveled and actually went to the South. Look at Piggly Wiggly. At the time of its founding, grocery stores did not allow their customers to gather their own goods. Instead, a customer would give a list of items to a clerk who would then go through the store himself gathering them. That, of course, created a greater cost, therefore higher prices. Piggly Wiggly introduced the innovation of allowing customers to go through the store gathering their own goods. This cut costs, allowing for lower prices. Others were initially experimenting with this format as well, which initially came to be known as a grocerteria, reminding people of a cafeteria, another relatively new self-service idea. Now, I was trying to remember this morning as I was talking about this with Cassie. I know definitely even within Orson Welles' The Stranger, there's some sort of grocery store scene where the guy just sits behind the counter and someone wants his help and he's like, no, you do it. That's how things are done now. So everything you need to know you can learn from Orson Welles films and The Simpsons. Continuing to look at this day in history, September 6, 1949, Allied military authorities relinquished control of former Nazi Germany assets back to German control. Let's read that again. Allied military authorities. Okay, so that's the West. That's the Americans and the UK. Okay, yeah. Relinquished control of former Nazi Germany assets. Okay. Back to Germany. Oh, I get it. I understand. So after the big showy war funded by the same groups, after the big war games are over, everybody says, hey, that was a good time. Okay, here's your toys back. Here's your tanks. Okay, we'll take some of your Nazis over here. We're trying to get, okay, here's your guns and V2 rockets. War is a racket. You want to help the environment? You need to be vehemently anti-war. Not cheering for war with Syria to go against Russia because you're obsessed with it. Continuing to look at this day in history, September 6, 1961, Bob Dylan made his debut at the Gaslight Cafe in New York City on this day in 61. September 6, 1966, in Cape Town, South Africa, the architect of apartheid, Prime Minister Heinrich Verwoerd, stabbed to death during a parliamentary meeting. Follow-up from yesterday's note in history on today, September 6, 1972, 9 Israeli athletes taken hostage at the Munich Olympic Games by the Palestinian Black September terrorist group die, as did a German policeman, at the hands of the kidnappers during a failed rescue attempt. 2 other Israeli athletes were slain in the initial attack the previous day. September 6, 1983, the Soviet Union admits to shooting down Korean Airlines Flight 007, stating its operatives did not know it was a civilian aircraft when it reportedly violated Soviet airspace. We talked about that actually last week. Now we get to the big stuff. September 6, 1989, New Kids on the Block released their album Hangin' Tough. 1993, Don Henley, Jimmy Buffett, Elton John, Sting, and Aerosmith performed at a benefit concert in Boston for Walden Woods. I'm pretty sure I remember seeing Don Henley do commercials for Thoreau's Walden Woods back on music television. September 6, 1995, Cal Ripken Jr., one of the Baltimore Orioles, plays in his 2,131st consecutive game, breaking a record that has stood for 56 years. Don Henley must die. Is that a Mojo Nixon song? Get notes from the chat while we do this day in history. September 6th, it is Mojo Nixon. Woohoo! I got that one right. 1997, the funeral of Diana, Princess of Wales, takes place in London 20 years ago today. 1 million people lined the streets, and 2.5 billion freaking people watched it on TV. September 6, 2000, MP3.com agrees to pay Universal Music $53.4 million to end their legal dispute over licensing. September 6, 2007, Israel executes an airstrike, Operation Orchard, to destroy a nuclear reactor in Syria. September 6, 2009, Super Ferry 9 sinks off the Zamboanga Peninsula in the Philippines. 971 people are on board. Actually, only 10 died. Same day, again, this is a big travel day. September 6, 2012, 61 people die after a fishing boat capsizes off the coast of Turkey. Published in Media Monarchy a decade ago today, we got a story from the Associated Press. A federal judge struck down parts of the revised USA Patriot Act, saying investigators must have a court's approval before they can order internet providers to turn over records without telling customers. U.S. District Judge Victor Marrero said the government orders must be subject to meaningful judicial review and that the recently rewritten Patriot Act offends the fundamental constitutional principles of checks and balances and separation of power. Everything we're dealing with is all on the blank check of 9/11. 16th anniversary coming up. And it's all predicated on the obviously, verifiably false narrative of the official story of 9/11. Of course, more on that as the day and the anniversary approaches. Celebrating birthdays today, September 6th, the legendary Nosferatu Max Schreck, born on this day. Joe P. Kennedy Sr., that's right, the granddad of the corrupt Kennedy machine, born on this day. It's also Jimmy Reed's birthday. Sergio Aragones, Mad Magazine genius, born on this day in 1937. Joanne Worley, Bridget Berlin, she did the Warhol movies. It's also David Allan Coe's birthday. He's still kicking it. Roger Waters, born on this day in 1943. It's also Swoosie Kurtz's birthday. Singer-songwriter Sylvester. It's also Buddy Miller, Carly Fiorina's birthday. Buster Bloodvessel, Jeff Foxworthy, Michael Winslow. It's also Scott Travis from Judas Priest, Chris Christie from New Jersey, Geert Wilders, controversial Dutch lawyer and politician, Rosie Perez, Christopher Nolan, Macy Gray, CeCe Peniston, and Rhett Miller from the old 97s. It's also Idris Elba and Foxy Brown's birthday. We were already playing some old 97s a little bit earlier on our stream, MediaMonarchy.com/listen. News, music, and more brought to you by you. And we'll wrap up today with the second single from Canadian indie pop band Always' forthcoming sophomore record, Anti-Socialites. Love that title. And we'll listen to a pretty dreamy song called Dreams tonight from Always as we wrap up the Hump Day edition of your Morning Monarchy, my friends. Hey, we're going to be taping another episode of New World next week, coming up a little bit later today. So if you've got some stories that you think should be included on one of the most popular underground independent news shows, you can tweet those out using hashtag New World Next Week. And we'll keep the stream going all day, my friends. There it is, Hump Day edition of your Food World Order Morning Monarchy for Wednesday, September 6, 2017. I'm James Evan Pilato. Thanking you so much for listening, y'all. And reminding you, as always, like Jello Biafra says, don't hate the media, become the media. Take care.
You're listening to Media Monarchy with James Evan Pilato. Since 2005, Media Monarchy has covered the real news about politics, health, technology, and the occult, all remixed with music and media that matters. Go to MediaMonarchy.com/support and become a monthly subscriber so you can help keep independent, non-commercial, alternative media going and growing. Thanks.